poem is called In Your Honor. Unselfishly, you left your fathers and mothers. You left behind your sisters and brothers. Leaving your beloved children and wives, you put on hold your dreams, your lives. On foreign soil, you found yourself planted to fight for those whose freedom you granted. Without your sacrifice, their cause would be lost. But you carried onward, no matter the cost. Many horrors you had endured and seen, many faces had haunted your dreams. You cheered as your enemies littered the ground. You cried as your brothers fell all around. When it was all over, you all came back home. Some were left with memories to face all alone. Some found themselves in the company of friends as their crosses cast shadows across the land. Those who survived were forever scarred, emotionally, physically, mentally marred. Those who did not now sleep eternally 'neath the ground they had given their lives to keep free. With a hand upon my heart, I feel the pride and respect. My reverence is revealed in the tear that now streams down my upturned face, as our flags wave above you in her glory and grace. Freedom was the gift that you unselfishly paid. Pain and death was the price that you eternally paid. Every day, I give my utmost admission to those who fought to fight, to defend our nation.
Thank you, Brygette. Scripture tells us that there is no greater love than a man laying his life down for his friends. The men and women we honor here today have proven that they're not just friends to us as Americans, but are friends to men and women in countries all over the world. One such man, Sergeant William Stacy, epitomized what it meant to be a non-commissioned officer in the United States Marine Corps. He was described by a journalist embedded in Afghanistan as a bright and concentrated flame within him that could cut through stone. It spelled death and failure to his enemies and gave life to his comrades. On January 23rd, 2012, the 23-year-old from Redding, California, was already on his fourth deployment to Afghanistan, was killed by an IED blast while walking patrol in Helmand Province. Like many going into combat, Sergeant Stacy wrote a letter to be read in the event that he gave his life. My death did not change the world, Sergeant Stacy wrote. It may be tough for you to justify its meaning at all, but there is a greater meaning to it. Perhaps I did not change the world, but there will be a child who lived because men left the security of their country to come to his, and that child will learn in new schools that have been built. He will walk the streets not worried about whether or not his leader's henchmen are going to kidnap him. He will grow into a fine man who will pursue every opportunity in his heart could desire. He will have the gift of freedom, which I have enjoyed for so long. If my life buys the safety of a child who will one day change this world, then I know it was all worth it. Ladies and gentlemen, I would argue that the sacrifice made by Sergeant Stacy and countless other American heroes has indeed changed the world. It is simplistic and naive belief that war doesn't solve anything. I suppose that's true, unless you count winning America's independence, the preservation of the Union, the elimination of slavery, and the toppling of fascist, imperialist, and terroristic regimes. 60 years ago, America was engaged in a horrific war on the Korean Peninsula. Many died there so that many can live. 87-year-old Herbert Miller survived combat in World War II, but would not be alive today if it not for the actions of Captain Emil Kapan, who encountered Miller as he laid in a frozen, blood-drenched ditch in North Korea. Suffering from a grenade wound and a broken ankle, and now captured by the Chinese, Miller was lifted and carried by Father Kapan, a Catholic chaplain, who selfishly put the needs of his fellow soldiers ahead of his own. When Miller protested, Kapan said, "If I put you down, they will shoot you." Many other tales of Kapan's heroics were later recalled by survivors of the North Korean prison camp. After coming down with pneumonia and dysentery, Kapan died in the camp hospital that the POWs called the death house. For his heroism, Father Kapan was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor on April 11, 2013. Prior to Kapan's capture, all able-bodied men in his unit were ordered to evacuate when it was clear that the enemy was quickly surrounding them. Fully aware of certain capture, Kapan elected to stay behind to provide medical aid and comfort to his comrades. During the Medal of Honor presentation, President Obama said Father Kapan was an American soldier who did not fire a gun, but who carried the mightiest weapon of all, the love for his brother so powerful he was willing to die so that they may live. We owe it to Father Kapan, Sergeant Stacy, and nearly 1 million other men and women who have died defending America since our nation's founding. We owe it to them. Earn this, as Captain Miller employed to his surviving comrades in Saving Private Ryan. A fictional story, but dead-on accurate portrayal of the bravery demonstrated by American military men and women again and again. We can earn this by remembering their families who have sacrificed so much. Long after the battlefield guns have been silenced and the bombs stop exploding, the children of our fallen warriors will be missing a parent. Spouses will be without their life partners. Parents will continue to grieve for their heroic sons and daughters that died way too early. We need to be there for them, not just as members of the American Legion family, but as American citizens. Nobody can replace these fallen heroes, especially in the eyes of their families. But we can offer shoulders to cry on, assistance with educational expenses, and assurances that loved ones' sacrifices will not be forgotten. Americans must remember that freedom isn't free. In fact, it is only possible because of our fallen heroes that paid its highest price, which enables us to have ceremonies and observances like this across towns, across this great country. The first Memorial Day was believed to be celebrated by a parade of freed slaves and Union soldiers marching through Charleston, South Carolina in 1865. Waterloo, New York is considered the official birthplace of Memorial Day because after it was observed there on May 5th, 1866, General John Murray and General John A. Logan called on all communities to honor the war dead every year. Logan had been impressed with how the southern states had honored the fallen Confederate soldiers for years, In 1868, Logan, the head of the prominent veterans group, the Grand Army of the Republic, issued a proclamation that Decoration Day be observed nationwide. That date was chosen as May 30th, specifically because it was not on the anniversary of any battle. Still, many Southern communities did not want to honor Decoration Day because of lingering resentments from the Civil War. The alternative name, Memorial Day, wasn't commonly used until World War II. Federal law recognized the holiday as Memorial Day in 1967. As the unofficial beginning of summer, let us never lose focus of what Memorial Day means. It's not about beaches, picnics, or auto races. It's a day to remember. It is a day for us to remember the promise that President Lincoln made, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. Remember our fallen once a year is not enough. The widows, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, and children remember every day. The empty seat at the dinner table, the smaller gathering on Thanksgiving, and the voice of a loved one heard only as a distant memory in one's mind are constant reminders they are gone. We owe it to our heroes that have died and loved ones left behind to make sure that their sacrifices are remembered and that their service to this nation will always be honored. Sergeant Stacy believed his sacrifice was worth it. It is up to all of us to prove him right. May God bless them all. Please stand and salute. Two. That concludes our ceremony. I appreciate you all coming out today. You're all welcome to stop by Post 44. We're going to have some hamburgers and hot dogs ready for everybody down there. And again, thank you for coming out today.